This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, health, tax, professional advice. We're not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from the use of this podcast. This podcast is not intended to replace professional medical advice. The views expressed in this podcast may not be those of the host or the management. This podcast may contain adult themes, so parental discretion is advised. So today's guest doesn't just talk about divorce. She walks people through it with compassion, clarity, and a sense of grounded purpose. Naomi Cao is a separation and divorce coach who turned her own experience of representing herself in court, yes, I said representing herself in court, into a call to help others proclaim their voice. So if you're in the middle of heartbreak, standing at the edge of it, or rebuilding your life, this conversation is for you. So welcome.
Thank you, Lorna. Thank you.
I tried to get the name right.
That's okay. So I'm joining you from Sydney, Australia. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. The pleasure is all mine, all mine. So if you want to give our listeners a little background, or we can go straight to the question. Is a choice you want to make there? Or you want us to go straight into the questions?
Yeah, sure. So my story, I guess, started in 2017. I was married to my husband and been with him for 17 years. And 2 days prior to going away on a family vacation, I was sitting in my lounge room, folding laundry, watching Survivor. And he walks in and he says to me, "The marriage is over. I want to separate." So at that time, I felt very overwhelmed, filled with shock. I never imagined my life being separated. We've got 3 children together. And at the time, the children were 12, 10, and 5. So that was 2 days out of going on a family vacation to visit his mum in another state in Australia. And you can imagine I was very confused. I was lost. I was taken by surprise. And what happened in the months leading up and then the months to follow was that I found out there was a whole part of his life that I didn't really understand. But most of it was about finding myself again and helping others and then establishing a career out of something that was painful in my life.
Okay. So, there's so much power in what you just told us. Is your whole coaching started to emerge out of this?
So what my journey started was, so after he announced that the marriage was over, we went away on holidays together. What I found out was that he actually froze all my bank accounts and I was left with $2,000 in our bank account. When we got back to Sydney, I decided to contact family therapists to try and get us back on track to see if there was anything in my marriage that I could repair, but it wasn't. And then after that, everybody's advice to me was go get yourself a lawyer, and I did. And my lawyer was $600 an hour, and most divorce lawyers are a couple $100 an hour. Just to put it into context, I gave up my career as a pharmacist to raise the children. I had a coaching business for kids, but it wasn't something that I was making a lot of money with. I was earning about $30,000 a year. It was something to keep me mentally stimulated, but be also available for our kids and to, drive them to school and pick them up after school and do activities. He was the primary income earner in our family. He's a specialist doctor and he was earning over $500,000 a year in income. So he was able to sustain our life. He was the financial contributor and I was, I guess, the non-financial contributor in the relationship. And that was the hardest part because even though I was involved in the family finances at that particular moment in time, I felt very vulnerable because I had no access to money. I had no access to, I had to beg and borrow from my family to pay for my legal bills. And after a couple of months and ended up with about $12,000 in legal costs, I decided to self-represent in court. And in that process, I also set up a support group for women. And in that support group, we ended up talking about our cases, our situation, and I ended up case managing these women who were coming through. And I was only doing that for free, just to understand the system better, to see if there was a better way. And as a result, I ended up managing the individual cases who were in there. And we started off with about 10 women and we ended up with about 25. And it was, I guess, in that experience that I discovered that I had a special skill, and that skill was to understand people's situation, to identify what they were going through and what were the key areas of conflict between them and their ex-partners. And I offered suggestions on how they could manage their case or how they could deal with their case or how they could use their words differently in order to communicate with the other party. And through that experience, a lot of lives were changed. And then somebody came to me with a case that, a multi-million-dollar case, and asked me to assist this particular woman while she was going through her separation. And that's how my business was born.
Wow. I know you use the phrase plan, don't react. That's powerful. But how can you how can you not react?
Well, reacting is, and I think, yes, how can I not react? Because in that moment when my ex-husband sort of like said, I want to separate, I just felt like I'm kapoom, but I didn't. And because, that would be very, very wrong. And look, I did react in the sense that it was all, and in the initial stages, it's always hard to react.
Right.
And there's crying, and there's a whole heap of emotions that's just everywhere. And as I was progressing with my journey, there were certain things that I thought, well, you can't control what happens out there so much, but you can actually take a step back and go, okay, how can I choose to react to this new problem that gets presented to me today? And it is something that is learned. It is something that we do actually need somebody to work with us in order to help with those skills. It's very easy to sort of say, I'm not happy, and react in quite volatile situations. And in divorce, it is always volatile emotions, but there's a lot flying around. And it's something that I've actually had to work over time. And that's
Mhm.
something that I work with a lot of my clients and helping them achieve or understand the process that comes with, I call it an emotional spaghetti because it's all mixed up. But I do work with my clients and helping them identify what are some of the areas that they are upset about, what are some of the areas that they are angry about, what are some of the areas that they are disappointed about, and so forth. There's a whole heap of emotions that people go through. And then we sort of do little plan activities on how we can decrease those emotions. What are some of the things that we can prepare for? Why do we have those feelings? Why do we feel angry? And it's a lot of the times it comes back to we don't understand the process that lies ahead. And the best way to control our reactions is to empower with knowledge and understanding what lies ahead. And that helps make our reactions a little bit more
Mhm.
predictable.
Now, you represented yourself in court, and
Yes.
one of the things that you said was to stop outsourcing your power. But how does someone even begin to
Self-represent.
yes, okay. You said that in one of the blogs that you posted, you said
Yes.
stop outsourcing your power.
Yes.
But in a system that is so overwhelming, how does someone even begin to do that?
Yes, like it takes, I think it takes a huge amount of bravery or stupidity. I don't know. But most definitely, look, I think it's bravery.
Mhm.
I think so often as women or as individuals, we have doubts on what we can achieve because we've all been, I guess, as we get older, we've conformed to what society expects us to do.
Right, right.
And for me, I knew that in family law anyway in Australia that I wasn't going to go to jail. I wasn't going to do anything illegal. I wasn't going, I've never done anything illegal to start off with, so I wasn't going to start. And I wasn't, and the thing that was sort of like keeping me in the forehead, like the front of mine, was that I needed to advocate for myself and
Right,
advocate for my children.
right,
And the biggest thing for me, I think, was identifying that I was doing it for my children and for them to remain in their homes and remain in their schools. And so it takes, you do have to dig deep and you have to have faith in yourself that you will get through this.
yeah, because you're dealing with your ex, you're dealing with all these legal professionals that trying to manipulate you. In some of these high pressure conversations, I think that can be very overwhelming.
Look, and that was my greatest fear is having to deal with another lawyer and his lawyer on the other side and understanding the legal language. So I didn't do it completely unassisted. I did go out and seek a lawyer who was able to explain a lot of the terminology for me, but didn't take me on as a full capacity as my
Right,
representative. So she was a really good, to a certain extent, a really good mentor and a really good advocate, but she was happy to be in the background and not charge me a lot of money. While, I did self-represent, I didn't do it
blindly.
uneducated, like I
Yeah,
really
yeah,
got to know
yeah.
what I did say to her, what steps do I need to take? I had to really be able to be vulnerable myself and ask the stupid questions. And that's something
Right.
that we don't do, We as adults we don't we stop ourselves from asking the questions because for the fear of looking stupid or feeling stupid. But I think there's no stupid questions and you just have to get
Yeah.
used to asking those questions because we don't know what we don't know. And it's important to really ask the right questions to get the answers. And if you feel that that particular question didn't get you the right answer, ask another question.
Right, right. So one of the things what I found very good about your approach was that you made space for emotions.
Yes.
The grief, the rage, even shame. So
Yes.
why is it important to you that people don't rush past all of these emotions?
Yeah, and I went through phases where I felt down and I was angry because I didn't see it coming. I was upset because this is not the family that I had planned in my head. And so I found that, like I was in that sad space. I cried when I needed to. And I knew that I needed to feel the lows so that when I actually came out, I could feel the highs again. There were times when I was tempted to go to the doctors and say, I need some tablets, to take through,
And
to help me
to
through
tide you
this
over.
depressive state. And I stopped myself and I thought, instead of resorting to the antidepressants for my situation, and I'm not saying that drugs is bad or anything like that
No,
because
no.
every situation is different. But
Mhm.
for me, I wanted to explore all the opportunities that I could in order to access my feel good hormones
Mhm.
as well. So I started exercising, I started sleeping, getting more sleep and exercising and helping release that feel good hormones. I had dogs, so I made sure I, enjoyed those moments with the dogs because they offer, release of oxytocin.
Mhm.
And so I really learned to sit in that emotion and also be patient. That's something that I wasn't good at before.
Right. Yes, yes, yes. You know, you said also that in your writing that naming grief can be transformative.
Oh,
Would you,
totally.
would you like to
Yeah.
expound?
I think so often we want to try and brush over it and we want to ignore that uncomfortable conversation. Really identifying that grief, really sort of like acknowledging that it's there will help you sit in that space for a little bit and then you have to make that conscious decision to get out of it and say, okay, I don't want to sit in this grief for too long. I do grieve the loss of my nuclear family, but it's important for me to acknowledge the next step, which is I've got a family that looks very different now, and I have to work on building up new traditions and looking forward to how I can overcome that grief.
My grandmother would say, you can grieve, but don't stay there.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Yeah, you don't, yeah, you
Yeah,
grieve,
grieve,
but
but just don't stay there. Don't make
yeah.
it your home.
No, no, you don't want to sit in that space. You like, and I've had a lot of clients say to me, Naomi, I really love the fact that you sit in the mud with me, but you don't
Right.
let me stay in the mud, which I love that too.
So that's a good thing. But so imagine somebody's listening to us right now. The
Yep.
paperwork is signed, the silence is louder than ever. They don't know how to begin again. What do you say to them at this point when they're actually gone through the
Gone to the
process
other
of being,
side.
yeah, gone to the other side, the dark
Yeah.
side?
Look, I think it's important for me. I say to a lot of my clients that while we're signing off one part of our life, it's like a closing of a chapter, that it's time to embrace a new chapter. I had a great divorce party.
A
Went
party?
out with
Oh, we need to get pictures.
I went out, I had a dance, I had a good night out with some of my friends who supported me, and it was really a good celebration of my new chapter. So I say to a lot of people that once you've signed off these things, it doesn't mean it's the end of your life, it's just a closing of one journey, and it's a real opportunity for you to open the next door. And sometimes it could be a bit of a surprise, when there's multiple doors down that
Right.
hallway, you get to experiment, and there is no right or wrong way to do it. There's some people who might want to go out and date again, and if that is the case, go out and do it. If they want to start learning a new skill, I would really encourage that, because picking up something post separation and post divorce
Right.
gives you something to look forward to. So it's yeah, when you're actually learning a new skill and you're starting from scratch. I actually had friends who started skydiving or
No.
to, paraglide, and some people took up painting and or learning a new instrument. So embrace that new and exciting part of your life
You,
as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
So how can somebody trust again? How do you help your clients trust again? Because as you were saying, you thought you in the relationship was good, you didn't see any signs that anything was going on, and you trust this person with your funds. You didn't micromanage them. Basically it was in total control. So how do you trust somebody again with your life and with your love, with your heart, with everything, with
Yes.
your being? How do you
Yeah.
trust somebody
Yeah.
again?
I guess, it comes back to what my mum said to me when I was a child, and I was still living at home. And she would say to me, when I used to go out at night and all that
Hmm. Hmm.
stuff, she would say to me, when you say you're going to the club, I trust that you are going there. If you choose to betray that trust and you go to another club or do something else, then it's on you.
Hmm.
So, and I've gone through my life with that. And most definitely when my marriage ended, I felt that my trust was betrayed. But I believe that there's so much good in the world, and I carry what my mum said to me when I was a child, and is that I place the trust in the others. I do things in good faith, and that I hope that they do the right thing by me. So I live a lot on hope and trusting the other person. So I would normally give that trust, and if that trust is betrayed, then it gives me reason to doubt. But for me, that's how I've been operating, and I say that to my kids as well. I trust, like there's Life 360s and tracking things and tracking kids' phones and all that stuff. And even though I've got that on my phone, it's more for emergency cases. I don't really know where my kids go out. They end up telling me where they go, and I trust that they will go there. And same for my partner now. You know, if he says this is what I'm doing, then I trust that that's what he does. And I think that relieves you of that heaviness,
Yeah.
trying to go, oh, well, when will I trust again? I think it's important for us to like let some part of that go.
So, if you could whisper one message to someone who's just beginning the journey, of starting the divorce procedure, what would that be? If you could just whisper in their ears.
Whisper in their ears. What, only one?
One message. No, I know you could. I know you. If I tell you more than one, you're gonna.
One thing I will say to everybody is that you are stronger than you think, because I think so many times we think, oh, I can't do this. Yes, you can. I can't get through this pain. Yes, you can. And you will. But you do have to sort of like dig deep, and there is that strength in everybody to survive, and there is strength in everybody to pursue their dreams, and there's strength in everybody to achieve what they want. But they just need to remember that they can, and they will, because they're strong enough to.
Yes, yeah. Sometimes we just have to just push ourselves a little bit more, and you're surprised to know what we can achieve. But
Yeah, totally.
but human beings like complacency. We don't like too much anything too hard, but sometimes we are forced we're forced to do things that stretch us
Yeah.
beyond
Yeah,
our
yeah, yeah, most definitely. And when you're actually feeling uncomfortable, that's you growing, and that's you learning to be stronger too. So if we don't actually have that struggle, I don't think we ever build resilience.
What's one myth about divorce you're on a mission to dismantle? What
One myth.
Yeah, I only can give you one, because I
I
know you.
know, you're doing it really hard. One myth. The one myth I guess that a lot of people do
Mhm.
is they go out straight away and get lawyers. While there is a place for lawyers, I'm not discounting lawyers, so please,
Right.
lawyers,
Yeah,
don't get
yeah.
upset with me. That there is so much more that a person can actually work on before going straight to the lawyers. And whether you are the person instigating that separation, or you are the person on the receiving end. The first step shouldn't be, I got to go get myself a lawyer. I got a lawyer up. I got to. I think that there is so much to untangle, and there are great divorces I know in North America, who can actually work you through that process. And it's
Right.
really important to identify which is up for negotiations, and because when people go out and seek lawyers straight away, or when people react and seek lawyers out of the way, a lot of the times you are fueled by that anger,
Hmm.
and you're like, I want to get that person, make him
They're
or
not
her
getting a
pay.
sense.
And we don't need that. We need to sort of
Yeah.
like, decrease that emotion. And how do we do that is to actually work on ourselves a little bit more, on
Right.
how we can actually process what the information is.
Okay. So, what legacy do you hope your work leaves behind? What legacy? What's the legacy you want to leave
The legacy
behind?
that I want to leave behind is that was not just so in divorce alone, but I think the legacy that I want to leave behind is when you're actually faced with any type of issue, that there is always a better way to solve it. There is a more kind way to solve it. There is a more creative way to solve it, and it doesn't actually need anger in that place. So, where we can actually find a kinder solution,
Mhm.
a more compassionate solution, then that's what I like to work with all the things that I do.
Right, all right. So how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Yeah, so people can actually find me on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on TikTok, Facebook, and they just need to do a search on my name. So my name is Naomi Cao. So it's Naomi Cao. Just do a Google search and I'll come up in the different social media and people can get in contact with me.
What I'll do, I'll put that in the narrative of the podcast
Yes.
so they can
I'll give you
see.
the links as well. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Naomi, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You didn't just guide us through separation today. You reminded us that we can design our own next chapter with intention. So whether
Definitely.
you, yeah, so wherever you are in your story, may this episode be a compass. I thank you.
Thanks, Lorna.
Thank you so much.